All right, well, I'm using the phone to go live here in the studio, and I'm not exactly sure why. I'm gonna switch the camera mode. There we go. I'm gonna set this down right here. Let's see if I can change the, sorry. Normal. All right, well, hopefully it's not too hot. The white looks kind of hot. It would be nice to be able to adjust the, well. All right, well, if you're distracted or struggling with distractions and they're interfering with your production or your creativity or your ability to get things done, I can totally relate. I wanted to do this live video, and I'm using the phone app to do it. I set up a scheduled stream earlier in the day, and I thought I would be able to just connect to that stream, and there might be a way to do it, but I was tinkering around with the app and I couldn't figure it out, so I just started a new one. I'll go back and update later. So apologize if you didn't get to you set a notification for the other video and then you had to find this one. I was just diving into making some other videos about some mobile gimbals, about the Osmo Mobile, about the Movi, about Smooth Q. But I wanted to take some time to discuss distractions. Now, I struggle with a mild case of ADD, and I get distracted pretty easily when I don't have specific deadlines, or if I don't, especially when it's stuff for me. Now, when it's stuff here at work or things that have a very focused timeline, it's easier for me to lock into that and be focused on that. But when it's kind of left open-ended, like a lot of videos on my YouTube channel or posts to Instagram or any kind of engagement in that way, man, those are the ones that end up suffering, and I really got to push past that. Now, that's generally speaking. Now, let me get into some specifics for the weekend. So this weekend came, I was watching some Matty Hapoya videos, and he threw out the challenge for the solo B-roll challenge. And I already rented this because I was going to do this shoot and cover the gimbals and things, because there's a lot of people that I know that are shooting video, or they're starting their channels and they're using their phone to do so, and I'm trying to help bring more value into their production, and obviously gimbal is a huge step in that direction for them. And so that's why I'd already pre-planned that, and then lo and behold, Matty throws out this solo B-roll challenge. And I'm like, sweet. So I'm like, I'm already going to be filming. Maybe I can use some of that B-roll for this challenge. And even as I sit here and talk about that, I think about there's some other B-roll that I shot earlier for this that I probably could have edited really quickly and submitted, but didn't. So I got this other idea when he threw that challenge out, that I'm like, okay, well, I'm working throughout the weekend, so the challenge went out Friday. Saturday and Sunday I'm working, so I'm like, oh, I don't have a lot of free time to run around somewhere and get some really cool B-roll shots of something. And I saw some of the B-roll that was submitted people doing stuff in their own homes, and I was like, yeah, I didn't even, I'm, part of the distraction is I think outside of the box too much, and I can think inside the box every once in a while. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll do some B-roll of what I do at work, which is I do live stream, I run a live broadcast here, so I'm in a broadcast situation. There's a lot of gadgets and things that I deal with in a production level that look cool and that might be of interest, or at least might look cool from a B-roll standpoint. And so I brought this guy because I was testing it out, and I plugged that in, I hooked it up to a C-stand, and if you've seen my Instagram feed, there's a video on there where I tied a string to a chair so I could swivel the chair. Because the issue with the B-roll challenge was it was solo B-roll challenge, meaning that you could only do it by yourself. And I thought, well, how can I get this cool dolly pan with motion? So I tied a string to the head of the C-stand, and I swiveled the chair and I pulled the string and had some cool shots, some real nice tight macro shots of the controller and the switcher and the faders on the mixing board and that type of thing. But the lights were really low, and I'm shooting it on a phone, and I'm sitting there going, man, it looks cool on the screen, but when I went back and I downloaded it and I looked at the footage, it was really grainy, it was dark, and I'm like, man, this just doesn't look that great. And so at this point, it's late Sunday afternoon, and I was like, I need to spend the time shooting these videos that I'd already planned on. And so I threw in the towel before I even made a submission or spent any more time trying to edit and that type of thing. So on top of that, I stumbled across, it was about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, well, it was maybe a week and a half, I stumbled across the Moment International Film Festival, which is coming up here in April, and the submission due date is March 17th. Well, today's the 11th, and I've been wanting to shoot this short doc, and I thought, okay, this is my opportunity to shoot this short doc again. I've already got this stuff planned, and this other thing comes in, and if your film was in the top 5, they were going to fly you there, and there's potential for winning a whole bunch of gear and cash prizes and stuff of that nature. And I thought, man, that would be cool, and started thinking about how am I going to do that. And so I kind of went down that rabbit hole of there's a camel plate, it's a long story, but basically the documentary was about this guy named Philip Tidrow, who was brought over by the U.S. government back in the early or mid-1800s to train camels to replace the mule train from Texas to California, because the mules were dying through the Sonoran Desert. They couldn't make that trek, so they thought, hey, let's bring over some camels. Now this was before all the steam train tracks were all laid and that network of tracks was completed, so there was still that need for supplies and all that type of thing. And so I got juiced about that, and I started thinking about that. I started planning and just distracted from what I was initially intending on doing. Now, I probably will still do that film at some point because it's in my book and I plan on doing it. It was supposed to be shot on the phone. I rigged up some rubber bands to my Mavic Pro so that I could get my phone to shoot drone shots, because that was one of the requirements. And so I started tinkering around with that, which was cool. I'm still going to try and film with my phone attached to the drone at some point, but, and now I'm a week to 2 weeks later and I still haven't finished the gimbal videos. And so it's just a big distraction. Now I'm gonna come around the camera because I wanna see, I can't actually see the chat right now, so I definitely wanna engage. Let me see here. All right, well, so it's pushed back my productivity on bringing value to the audience that subscribed to the channel in the first place. So I think I had to come to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be able to do this excellently, and I need to learn to say no to myself, to avoid these distractions and continue to be productive with what the intent and the purpose is. I need to be able to say no to other cool things that I probably could do, but not do them super well because it wasn't part of the plan. And part of the plan doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, I can't have flexibility and make adjustments and that thing, but I think I have to prioritize what's more important for my time. Obviously, well, or maybe not so obviously, I'm a father of 3 and a husband of 1, and I have responsibilities here that I take care of full time, and those are first priorities, as well as continuing to practice in the video production space because that's the world that I live in, and I want to continue to grow and that thing. And then as I do that, my secondary purpose is to bring you value and help you to make better video. So I need to have a set of questions that I sit and ask myself, like when the B-roll challenge comes in. Is it still filming? Yes. Is it still doing that production thing? Yes. Is it helping me grow and be better? Perhaps. Is it helping you in any way? And the B-roll challenge wasn't. Now I can argue with myself and say, well, I can say that, yeah, the B-roll challenge is going to help because if I'm getting better, then I'm bringing you more value, and there's some truth to that. But now I'm 2 weeks down the road and I still haven't finished these videos that are probably more important, is going to bring more value to more people than this kind of roundabout other thing. Now, I'm not mad at Maddie, and I'm not mad at the solo B-roll challenge. There's some amazing stuff, and I hope to be able to participate in the future and have more margin in my schedule to be able to do those types of things. And I think really that's what it comes down to, is it comes down to not only prioritization, but it comes down to having margin in the schedule for unknowns that could happen. Because that happens all the time. Our schedules are being pushed and pulled in every kind of direction with needs from our career and our workspace, and needs from the family and our spouse and everything in between. And I think having a plan, like you can't plan for those things, but you can plan to have margin for those things. And I think I get distracted when they pop up and I haven't planned the margin, and it does interrupt other things that I had planned, and it isn't always the best. Like I've been wrestling back and forth with whether or not to go to social media marketing world, because a lot of people in that space are my tribe. However, there's additional resources that it takes to get there, and I know that I've got to plan around that. Okay, what's happening in the workspace? Does that make sense if I take a day or two off to go do that? Is that going to interrupt my workflow? I mean, obviously that's priority, and I'm not going to jeopardize that in any way. Does it interrupt the family and my spouse in that time? Because that's also priority. And so figuring all that out. Well, for that particular event, my oldest daughter and my wife are heading to Austin. My son's heading to LA, and I can get some time with my youngest. As well as she wants to have some time with her friends during spring break, because it's spring break that week for them. So I'm like, okay, that might work if I can manage the resources and the time and the expectation, and does it still bring value to my personal growth, and does it bring value on the channel? Because that's a big part of the reason why I would be going to connect with people like Nick Nimmin and Dee Nimmin and Owen Hemseth and Owen Video and Sean Cannell and Caleb and Pat of SwitchPod and others that are doing things that bring a lot of value to the video space and video production, as well as gear and the like. So, but yeah, wrestling with that distraction. Again, this weekend, the solo B-roll challenge popped up, and I had at the 9th hour had to go. Now that's not going to be beneficial, because it's going to interrupt family time with dinner. It's going to interrupt some time spent with some of the volunteers on our crew here, as well as interrupting the flow of making these videos that are probably going to bring you more value than that. As well as the Moment International Film Festival interruption. That one I'm still struggling with, because I have 6 more days to shoot something, and I still have work. I have a couple of days where I could probably squeeze in a few hours each day of filming and making something happen. It's at this point I really have to sit down and evaluate, will I be able to make something valuable with quality that's worth watching, and if I did happen to land in the top 5 or top 10 or whatever it is that they bring people out to the festival for, would I even be able to go? And is that time frame and that work in my schedule there? And not struggling with the fear of missing out or something of that nature, which that can feed into that distraction as well. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly chat about that. I wanted to share just the balance of wrestling with the distraction, the wrestling with the priorities, wrestling with the planning, and when you weigh those things out, and you take time to weigh those things out, then it becomes a lot more clear, and the distraction gets a lot more minimized. But there was a lot of distraction this weekend, which is why I was like, man, I just wanted to share with you just the wrestling match that it was. And I was a little bit disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to submit something. It was only a minute long, so it wasn't like this, massively long video or anything, or it didn't have to be this major production. Again, there were just a few quantifiers, which was one, it had to be less than a minute, and it had to be done by yourself. So anyway, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Just wanted to share that with you, a little bit of things in my heart, things that I wrestle with, and hopefully that if you wrestle with that too, post up a comment. I'd love to keep the conversation going and see if there's a way that we can mutually encourage one another to stay focused, to plan accordingly, and plan not only our time but also our budget and the resources, so that we can bring our best foot, we can bring our best production forward, because we can be working on our friends' projects and this project and that project, and we spread ourselves way too thin, then the quality suffers, our health suffers, our relationships suffer, and it doesn't help anybody. So you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget, let's keep the conversation going in the chat or in the comments, and until next time, cheers.